All right, let's get started. I think there might be some interest in this discussion. So, just as I said, I think we should start out, and it seems like a pragmatic approach. Basically, state the obvious, what we've got now. Go through the if we do want to switch, because there is some momentum to switch, what it would take, and then go through the pros and cons of the switch, not switch. So everyone's on this, has the same knowledge, okay?
One opening remark. This is not a session about which email client is best. It's a session about which one do we ship by default.
And we do have both in main at this point, right, Chris?
Yeah.
So both of these are in main. So this is on the CD.
No.
No.
No. I'm sorry. This is a session about which one will be on the CD.
Yeah.
Okay.
You give Martin a heart attack.
At least not here, so.
So it seems pretty clear that that anyone who has a really strong opinion about which email client that they want to use can just install it. It's not a problem. So this is just like which by default.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I think one of the things we decided that, because we had a similar session at the last UDS, and one of the things we sort of decided was that exchange support probably shouldn't be a deciding factor for what which is on the CD. I know a few people have mentioned lack of exchange support, but I think that's not a blocker for the default.
And also, like, related to that, do we know how good the exchange support in Evolution is right now?
I don't know, because I don't know anyone that uses it.
Yeah. I mean, like, does it support the latest exchange? Is it like?
To be honest, I'm just packaging it, but I don't have anything to test it.
All right. Does anyone else in the room know? Like, how good is it?
I use it. I use the Exchange at work on Ubuntu in Evolution, and you know, I've got little complaints, but it tends to actually work very well.
All right.
all right. So if we want to talk about what it would take by default to switch, what kind of things do we need to actually do to make that change? So before we get into that other discussion about two-ship, what would we need to make to make Thunderbird be a proper Ubuntu desktop app?
EDS integration would be nice. And I've been told to bring to the discussion that there is a sort of half working attempt to get this underway.
Yeah.
So it's a half working attempt, not a working attempt?
It would need some work.
Yeah. I think actually, I took a work item at the last UDS to evaluate the quality of that, because that's been around for a while.
Half working is a good description.
Is it fair to say that whatever we decide now is what's going to be shipped in the LTS?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why they're clear. If we switch now, or if we don't switch now, what we ship this cycle will be what's in the LTS.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
EDS, half working.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is calendar. We use calendar desktop calendars.
That's what we're talking about. The EDS integration.
No, that's contacts as well, right?
Yeah.
Both those.
Okay.
And technically two do items, I think. But
Sure.
What's happening with contacts in Evolution? I know there's some work going on. You're probably more familiar with that, aren't you?
I'm not aware of big plans in Evolution, but on GNOME, the plan is to start integrating the contacts more into not only in a separate application like Evolution, but in the shell itself and in applications. So that's why EDS integration, apart from supporting other protocols that EDS supports, it makes a lot of sense because a lot of applications will be using EDS as a storage for contacts.
Yeah.
And also calendaring. So, but there is a Thunderbird plugin for doing calendars, no?
Yeah.
There is.
How does it work?
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, it works.
It's definitely our most popular plugin, and so we go out of our way to make sure that it continues to work.
and certainly we could ship it by default.
Yeah. I've also recently found an add-on that will allow you to mirror your EDS. You can view your EDS calendars through Lightning, which is the add-on.
Do you have an
link?
idea of the code quality?
I haven't looked at it, I just found it from a search. I can paste the link onto the Etherpad.
And there is also a extension that takes the calendar entries in Lightning and pushes them to Evolution. So they will show up in the clock.
Yeah.
Okay, so EDS integration, calendar integration, what are the things by default? Does Thunderbird do messaging, like Notify OSD? I'm not actually going to answer that question.
Mike's been working on that sort of integration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've been working on a couple different things like the messaging menu integration, the Unity launcher integration, the Ubuntu One contact synchronization. Those have been my 3 primary focuses since starting, because the primary mission when I was hired, which was not that long ago, was to get Thunderbird nicely integrated with the Unity shell.
How complete are those at this point?
They're currently experimental and available through addons.mozilla.org. I've gotten recently a lot of feedback on them that I'll be able to work with, but up until now it's sort of been, there haven't been too many users because you have to be on Thunderbird 3.3 and you have to be using Natty, those sort of things.
Have you worked with anybody here about the contact syncing with Ubuntu One, or is it just have you worked with anybody here on the Ubuntu One team?
So James has a version,
Hey, I remember you. Yeah.
So James, well, before we hired him, was working on contact syncing with Desktop Couch, against Desktop Couch. Now with Aaron, he's not doing that anymore.
Okay.
But he did some of that last time.
Yeah, spent time hacking last
But
night.
they're doing different approaches, right?
That's right.
So we have 2 working
We have 2 working-ish solutions that are not in the same.
code base, different approaches.
How is this Ubuntu One integration being written? Is it a separate backend? Because if you add EDS support, you already have that.
Right, so what I'm doing right now is making it easier to have general backends for address books, because the way Thunderbird's address book currently works, it was very difficult to have scriptable address books and without diving into C++. And work with Hedera, I was hoping to leverage a lot of that, but unfortunately because so much of it's in JavaScript, I had to make these changes in the address book, which are starting to be merged in now. So as I make those changes, it will become easier and easier for me to leverage that work to connect with Ubuntu One through the contact synchronization.
Just to kind of add on a little bit to what Mike said. Currently, the work he's doing is in add-ons, but we definitely plan to pull it into the core code once it's stabilized a little.
That's sort of our development model for these things, is we develop an add-on, we experiment, we iterate on add-ons, we gather feedback, and then once it stabilizes, we merge it in.
So is that merge something that might happen soonish?
It depends on when it stabilizes. It depends on the feedback. It depends on, yeah, a lot of those things.
We should start shipping it in the distro.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to get
Like it's
feedback.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we walk through EDS calendar, Notify, and some launcher. What else? What are we missing from integrating Thunderbird into the desktop?
It doesn't look like everything else?
I was going to say that for last. No, it wasn't. That's the most important one for me. But so, yes, desktop integration, look and feel.
So luckily, Thunderbird's built on top of the same Gecko engine that Firefox is, and so that means that styling the interface is actually relatively easy because it's just CSS. So changing the style of buttons, drop downs, et cetera, is relatively trivial. It just is finding out what you want.
There's also the problem where with GCK3 we'll have more animations and things within the buttons and the states and stuff. You don't get that. That won't come through into Firefox and Thunderbird, right?
So, I mean, yeah, you could still do animations.
Yeah,
in the,
I mean, look at it.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Just saying that it's
No, but
it will be worse.
do we need animations for those buttons? Firefox or that?
Well, We want it to look all this and work the same. That has to be our goal.
I think he's saying there's if we have a look, but not the same actions.
No feel.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Is there any hope whatsoever of being able to target a GTK theme engine to do your drawing?
Is it, well, it's, so, I mean, like, this is, like, GK already uses clitoris. If there is, like, anything that doesn't look like a proper GTK button, then tell me, and I'll fix it. I mean, like, my goal is to have it to look like a regular GTK application, including the graphics and all the appearance of buttons and all the other elements. So we did a, like, huge amount of work between, like, Thunderbird 2 and Thunderbird 3 on that thing specifically, just make it look like a regular Linux application.
One interesting thing to note is that we want to drop gconf this cycle if possible, and Evolution uses gconf and Thunderbird doesn't. I don't know if I consider this to be totally in the direction that I would like to go, but it's something that could be useful for that. And we were talking briefly about possibly Mozilla apps could use gconf, but we weren't sure if it was like really a win or if you guys wanted to do it.
It's certainly possible, but at that point, I think we start getting into resource trade-off. Do we want it to look better, or do we want to use gconf?
Probably look better.
That's my
Also,
guess.
because of the online accounts panel in the non-control center.
Can you speak a little bit louder?
Yeah. Also about the new control center on GNOME 3.2, they're gonna add an online accounts panel to set up like Google accounts. So there should be a way for Thunderbird to read that information so that the user just has to create the account in one place, and all the applications just use that account for Google contacts and calendars. It's not really sure it's gonna be done for this cycle in GNOME, but it's scheduled, you know, so maybe there needs to be a plugin or something that reads the settings information and just stores that information in whatever configuration thing you have.
Are you talking about, so on account setup, you enter your email address, et cetera, and it just automatically populates with the IMAP information?
Not really IMAP, but about creating Google accounts and things like that, Flickr accounts and things like that.
Oh, I see.
So if you set up a Google account, every application in the desktop should be able to read that information so that users don't have to enter the same information in every application. No?
I see.
So maybe you don't need to store things in the account, but at least you need a way to read that information if it's available. No?
Yeah, that sounds like an interesting.
Sorry?
That sounds definitely like an interesting add-on. Like I can see a lot of value in that. Just to answer Pete's question, actually I guess to not really answer Pete's question, I'm not sure whether or not you can access Thunderbird's data remotely while it's running, but I suspect, I suspect it would be a bad idea.
Okay.
One more issue that I would like to raise, and I think it's probably the most important issue above all these other ones, is the issue of consistent user experience between different releases of Ubuntu.
Yes.
I don't like switching applications because one became slightly better. I think there really needs to be a strong, like, there's no future to this product kind of reason for switching, because people get used to what they're used to, and then we give them the new release of Ubuntu, and it's like, whoa, what happened?
So
I don't know, that kind of depends on your point of view. I mean, I don't see his evolution particularly popular with people. I mean, they're either using Gmail or they're using Thunderbird. I mean,
Not sure where
the
the
only time I ever see evolution users is when I come to UDS.
Also, you gotta remember on an upgrade though, we're not gonna remove evolution from somebody's machine.
Right.
So it's only for new installs.
Yeah, but a lot of people upgrade that way.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you know, we were talking about desktop integration, and the discussion sort of ended with theming. And I mean, I just want to put it out there that the actual way that you draw the widgets is actually a very small part of consistent user experience. Evolution, about 90% of the time, actually does follow the GNOME human interface guidelines, as most of the applications that Ubuntu ships do. And it's the way that widgets work, it's the feeling. You may not even be able to put your finger on it, but the fact of the matter is if I teach somebody how to use a GTK GNOME HIG application, theoretically speaking, they should have less of a hard time figuring out the next GTK-based GNOME HIG application. So if we're talking about which email client is better, that's one thing. If we're talking about delivering a consistent user interface out of the box in Ubuntu, you need to consider more than just the look of the widgets.
How is this different from Firefox?
It's not, and I have the same issues. The difference is that Firefox was the only feasible open source browser until very, very recently. Whereas with Evolution, it has issues, but it does work.
So Evolution 3.0 and 3.2 is getting a lot of performance improvements and changes. So
yeah, this is one thing that's really true. A lot of people I know, I thought it was like just my personal story I've been telling to people, and they're like, yeah, it's exactly the same thing for me. People left Evolution en masse maybe about a year ago because a lot of people were using it to read their IMAP mail, be it on Gmail or wherever else. And it was unworkable. Like, it was getting so slow, and resyncing your folders if you had like 10,000 messages was just ridiculous. I was at GNOME Asia Summit, and I talked to the Evolution maintainer. I said, well, I'd love to use your stuff, it looks pretty cool, but it can't handle my email. And he said to me that the IMAP was completely rewritten. I reinstalled it, and like it's actually really fast now. It like has support for fast resync, it has support for idle, so I don't have to like mash my reload button when I'm waiting for mail to come in.
Yeah. So you can underscore that to say I'm started.
Yeah, exactly. So I switched to Thunderbird, and I'm back on Evolution now because it's really picked up the pace.
One concern I have with the syncing, if let's say we were going to go with Thunderbird right now, what I seem to understand from what you're proposing is that the desktop calendar and contacts integration would go through EDS. Is that what I should get from what we've been discussing so far? Because you're saying you can sync your, you can basically take your contacts and calendar information from EDS or push it to EDS.
So I was talking about Ubuntu One contact synchronization.
Okay.
That's what I was looking at. EDS was only really brought to my attention relatively recently. That is the fact that we can push to the calendar with this add-on. I haven't looked at the code. I just discovered it today.
Okay.
Suggests that there are mechanisms there that might be
right. Well,
legible.
My main concern is that I don't find it makes any sense to ship EDS to go with Thunderbird if you can ship EDS with Evolution.
Right.
When you have to ship EDS, because I mean, there's
a lot of things use EDS.
Yeah,
even the amount of need.
So
EDS isn't just for Evolution.
yeah, it should be the GNOME data server.
So the reason the two were separated was exactly that. So you didn't need to depend on Evolution just to be able to get
Stuart,
something
I'm sorry,
address.
can you speak up a little bit? What were you saying?
The whole reason Evolution and EDS was separated was precisely so people could build non-Evolution things on top of it, and that's what happened.
So another interesting, so thinking about the LTS rather than the next release, and where we go from 22 to 1 million users, so that's the target. The other interesting thing about Thunderbird is it has lots of Windows users. So it's this familiarity thing that even though it's a little slightly, not, maybe won't fit in as well as Evolution, which I don't know if it's true or not. But for people who are on Windows, and those will be the people switching, right? This will be familiar to them. So
Might suggest on the same vein that Evolution is much, much more similar to Outlook, and probably way, way more people using Outlook in Windows than Thunderbird. So you might also, I mean, just in the same thought, maybe you'll also get some familiarity out of that.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's danger in apps that are
similar but not the same.
Yeah.
Because your expectation of behaviour is that if something looks a bit similar, then you expect it to behave in exactly the same way, and then you don't really know, you can't map your expectations to reality because it's very similar but slightly different. So sometimes it's better to go, here's something completely different so that you can rework your mental.
Are more users using Outlook? I mean, have any of us been using the corporate environment before? Apart from people that... Okay.
Are you saying we should take LibreOffice off the CD?
That's not what the session is called.
Talking of CD, I completely agree with Martha's point though. Thunderbird is one of the few applications we're lucky enough to have which has got cross-platform brand recognition. And what we've seen from testing is that when we give someone Ubuntu who's never seen Ubuntu, doesn't even know what Ubuntu means for the first time, if we have a set of apps that they're familiar with, so if they see Thunderbird, if they see Firefox, if they see Skype, they don't actually see the apps, they don't actually see the OS, they see their apps, and they're completely at home. And that's one of the best things we can do to get people to switch over is to provide the apps, the cross-platform apps we have that people are familiar with. VLC is another one. We don't have that many, but the ones we have, we are very lucky to have. We really need to make maximum use of them.
And the inverse is also true. So as we try to keep people to, like, the migration strategy from Windows to Linux usually is start replacing the Windows apps, like i.e. for Firefox.
Gateway drugs.
Yeah, exactly. so this would be exactly that. The migration story would improve quite a bit.
This would be their method after that.
Right. Yeah, but the nice thing is when they come over, they go, oh, the integration with the Unity shell at that point, they're like, oh, cool, I got these little widgets and stuff. So I get that familiar thing, but again, I get that nice little bit of polish right now.
Yeah, and then there are nice bits to it as well. For example, if you've got filters set up in Thunderbird on your PC, you can just import them into Ubuntu and they work. There's lots of nice cross-platform integration there.
I'm wondering a bit like regards to the actual, if there is like anything specifically in Thunderbird that clashes with the way that like Ubuntu and GNOME does applications, like in general with the thing and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure that like Evolution has a bunch of places where it doesn't do what it should be doing.
Like
yes. Not a very.
That's why I said
nice UI.
90%, because Evolution breaks the rules when they shouldn't as well. Not that Thunderbird's breaking any rules; they're making their own rules. But if you'd actually like me to answer that question, we can sit down.
Yeah.
I can get.
Yeah, because he's the designer. You want to hang out with him.
Yes, and I can get my designer on the line because he's way better at this, and I've heard him talk about these things, and we can actually talk about that. But
all right,
I
let's
can't do
get
that.
back to that later because like the intent is like really to make the user experience great and to make the application fit
So we have
amazingly good.
We have some responsiveness. Seb and I were talking to Evolution developers like a couple of days ago, and they're responding to things we were saying to them. If we have some problems where they're not following the HIG, I'm sure we can give them a poke and say, this is like a GNOME policy document. We would like.
Can I, in that vein, can I ask a pragmatic question in here? It's who are the Evolution developers, and how many of them are there?
Right. So a lot of it got snapped up by Red Hat. The primary maintainer is Matthew Barnes, and he's working at Red Hat now. And he's the primary driving force. There's some volunteer people. Srini recently moved from Novell to Intel, but I think he's still working on it actively, which I don't know why, but maybe they have some interest in it for Miko or something like this.
Okay.
I'm actually not too familiar with the other people in that community, but it's clear that there's...
There's Milan working at Red Hat as well.
Yeah. So, order of magnitude between 0 and 5, or between 5 and 10? Just curious.
I'd say about 5.
Yeah.
I'd say the equivalent of 5, like full-time-ish people.
Okay.
Like when you add the community people together to form.
Sure.
So one concern I have is, Evolution's been out there for a long time, and I think a lot of people are actually using it. I know I see a lot of people using it. So, it was brought up a little bit. If we switch, well, there's a migration thing. If we want people to move over to, a migration issue if we want people to move over and have the full experience with all the new work or whatever's going on with Thunderbird and why people want to do that. But I also wonder about if they don't migrate, what's their experience going to be like, right? We have a Natty user who upgrades to Oniric. And so now, is evolution going to work as well for them?
Yeah.
How about in P, in Q, in R, when we're not really focusing on it at all?
We look at Thunderbird pretty well, and it's not in the default. So.
Yeah, we have a person like yourself who's been specifically hired to take care of Mozilla products, but we wouldn't have that specific individual looking at it. It's just the question.
No, are you asking if at some point, if we switch, would we maintain evolution in perpetuity type of thing?
I just am curious, yeah, I mean, well I just
obviously
want to know how well maintained it'll be if we switch. Because there are going to be people who are using it, especially if you consider Lucid to P.
So I expect that we will actually see an increase in the number of people who step up to help maintain something like Evo, because people will say, okay, we can't just take it for granted that Canonical will do it. We saw this with GNOME 3 when we had to make that tough decision. We saw a nice explosion of interest around the PPA. I don't think we should take that for granted, but I don't see this default decision as coming at the cost of the quality of evolution in the archive. I also don't think we should make it a half-assed decision, which is we'll do both, because you end up. I think we need to be, making a clear decision either way, and communicating that, and also reassuring people that it's an open platform, and we expect people to step up and help. Said you'd have a view on this, right? Are there precedents for this?
I think there is enough users and people in the community to care about the project. Something they will people will just join and participate and
We have the whole GNOME stack in the archive, and we update it every cycle.
Yeah.
It's going to continue to get upgraded following upstream.
It's likely corporate users will still be interested in evolution.
Right, yeah.
So it's still going to be pretty important.
From my point of view, now's the time when we need to start getting extremely picky about consistency of user interface for the users that we're distributing to and that we're trying to pick up, and that we need to, it's time to really hone in on exactly what the desktop-wide experience of Ubuntu is going to be like. Not this app is a little different, you can't put your finger on it, but you feel it, and this app's a little different. And if there are problems with evolution, let's fix those problems, or let's try to help fix those problems, because that is the application that most integrates with the broader Ubuntu desktop experience.
Someone just reminded me that, in fact, we have customers that use, Canonical has customers that use evolution. So the idea of Thunderbird is not because there's a corporate interest here. It's from the perspective of saying, what do most free software users actually use? What gives the end user the best experience for a mail client? And look at it purely through that lens. I suspect, from what I just heard, we would be on the hook for maintaining evolution anyway, because we have corporate users who use it. And this is an example of actually trying to separate out the interests of Ubuntu, representing the best free software experience, versus potentially Canonical, where we may have customers that are pointing in a particular direction. Just to say again, there's no commercial driver for a proposal to change default mail plan.
It just seems like in the long run, I mean, we're talking about what we use now is in the LTS. In the long run, especially with evolution going through the improvements that it has in 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, in the long run, we can be a part of that improvement process, and we can start to make sure that evolution is the mail client that we want it to be, and at the same time, we get a absolutely consistent user interface, not a almost completely consistent user interface.
Why would that be true for Evolution?
Yeah, Evolution has a lot of ports as well when it comes to consistency with stuff, the preferences dialog.
I agree with you, but to get complete consistency, it doesn't involve rewriting a new drawing engine. It involves finding bugs against the HIG, against evolution, citing the HIG. that's a doable prospect.
And because of how Thunderbird works, and it's interested in working on multiple platforms with
Right.
a small delta between the code, or preferably
Right.
like as small as possible. without
right.
doing
So it sounds like
anything.
the question is.
Well, we're moving away from toolkit ideology, right? So we have LibreOffice today, with Firefox today. That's real and it's rational. We're moving away from toolkit ideology. The principle of integration, design, and consistency, absolutely. But
This really is about consistency in the HIG. We can go to the evolution people and say, well, look, you're not following the HIG. You should be. You're a GNOME application, and they have to listen to our bugs. If we go to these guys and say, well, we have this thing called the GNOME HIG that's only applicable on Linux systems, they say to us, well, you know, we're actually kind of interested in Windows.
right, so again, we're shooting to take free software to 200 million users. How many of those users are using Thunderbird today? Right? For how many of those users is that a familiar mail experience where they will be productive, or where they feel like there's a bridge to somebody else who's productive? That's as important as consistency. We balance these things. It's not an easy thing. It's much easier to take one view or the other and not be responsible for the consequences.
But at the same time, you also have very many users coming from Outlook.
That's true. That's true. I'm not.
So there are multiple levels of where you can draw the consistency circle. So you can draw the consistency circle around GNOME. You could draw the consistency circle. You can say Linux doesn't stand alone. We live in a world where there are Windows users, where there are Mac users, and our objective is to convert these people and get these people onto Linux. And then if you're drawing this wider consistency circle, you say, again, these cross-platform applications deliver a consistent experience, and that really helps the migration. And same thing with Firefox, and you've got the consistent brand as well.
Well, I mean, you know, it's not like, I'm not gonna, if you know, everyone's, decides on Thunderbird in the community, it's not like I'm gonna throw my hands up and say, well, I'm gonna start, I'm going to Fedora, yeah, I'm gonna say tomorrow and go home. But, you know, it's just, you know, this is the debate, and I happen to have strong feelings. Yes, we ship Firefox and we ship LibreOffice. I personally have feelings about how awesome it would be to see a GTK-based web browser and so on. So in this session about this application, those are my feelings.
So I came in late, for which I apologize. It sounds like there's a really robust discussion with good views. Do we have anything approaching a consensus, or at least?
Not yet. We haven't gotten to that point. We're still walking through desktop integration and
teasing out issues.
Yeah.
That's the hard bit.
But we haven't.
Reached no consensus.
But we do have to actually.
Can I help with anything, or can I leave it in your good hands?
The problem is, I think, that a year ago it was a bloodbath, and now it's like really, it's a really fair fight now. So it's one of these really hard things.
It is, and it's a much fairer fight, I would say, and everyone has said this already. And we can't take switching lightly, but we need to look at the LTS and then beyond the LTS, and then I want to keep saying that. I want to keep saying that consistent user experience is good. I'm of the opinion that great user experience is better. And with what we're doing with Unity, with what we're doing with the desktop, I think we're showcasing that. And so I think we need to get behind that idea and keep pushing that forward.
We need to be willing to be inconsistent in order to get to a better place. We're being loudly told that we're inconsistent with one of those circles, right? So we can't then be told we have to stay consistent in some ways while we're inconsistent in others. I think we should get away from the language of conflict as well. Like, there's nobody here with swords, there's no heads rolling. You know, it's all good, it's all free software, and it's an engagement, it's a discussion. This isn't a fight. No one should log this as somebody won, somebody lost. Right? It's get out of the
it's just email.
No conflict. Hasn't Google made that?
Email is
better.
So, I have a few integration questions, unless you have.
No. We just want to be cognizant of time.
Sure. And as far as your release schedule goes, are you guys planning on following along with the Firefox modification to the thing? Okay, that's cool.
I don't know whether people are aware of that, are they?
Yeah.
No.
So that, I'm sorry.
Okay. So, no, I just think that's good, because we love the fast thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, but I just want to bring up, because standing back there. Security patches and things like that. So the model, Chris, why don't you lay out the model that we use for Firefox, which we would, I'm assuming, adopt for Thunderbird if we did.
Yeah, so we're going to be using the same update model we use with Firefox. So Firefox and Thunderbird are now using a 6-weekly release schedule. So rather than having a major release every year or so, there's going to be a version bump every 6 weeks, which will trickle features into the stable products. So things will change incrementally across the life cycle of the release.
So and just explain what that would mean for an LTS, and how. So we're just 12.04 has been released. We're 3 cycles ahead. What does that mean for an LTS?
It means that the LTS users will have a significantly better mouth line towards the end of that release than they did at the start.
So the question is like if GNOME APIs and like if UDS is changing over time, what version is Thunderbird is going to target? Like, are they going to match all the APIs for all the versions? Are they going only to target the most recent version? The advantage of the evolution is that the email client is a sync with the stack, like GNOME is coming together. But if GNOME is like breaking compatibility every cycle, it's going to be difficult to have the same product like across the board. Something we need to
And I think as we're talking about moving towards like having synchronized account storage and things like this, these breaks are a reality.
What about the importing of mail from Evolution? Does that work in Thunderbird?
I believe.
Oh, if you can import the Evolution. Oh, the whole thing accounts. Oh, yeah, it imports. Yeah.
Migration.
Just go to. It does it on startup, or if you go through.
Is there an Exchange story, like a plugin or something like that, or is that one of those? If you have an Exchange server, you're going to have to install Evolution.
Yeah, no, there is a plugin. Someone has made it his job, business, not paid by Mozilla, to create an Exchange plugin for Thunderbird. Having said that, the new release cycle means that binary extensions might not necessarily break every 6 weeks, but
mine has already.
But it might in fact break every 6 weeks. And since it's his business, he doesn't want to release the source code, which is fair enough.
Right.
Is it not open source but free, or what does that look like?
I think he may charge people for it.
But they're Exchange customers. I mean, they pick that side of the
Well,
right.
I always think that if you're going to a corporation, Evolution is a much more compelling story for a corporation. So I don't think that's the case. So it's also the case. I think if we do switch.
What was the thing we looked at last night?
Someone linked this on the whiteboard. Something called DavMail, which is a cross-plat daemon that sits in the background and will connect to Exchange, and then you connect your mail client via Thunderbird or Evolution to it, and it will connect to Exchange for you.
DavMail is less than excellent.
Sorry?
Yeah, I've been speaking to someone who has tried to use, real mail clients in an Exchange environment. DavMail is not all that it's cracked up to be. Someone can probably take it and make it better.
Right.
But it does the same thing Evolution does. It talks to the web Davi interface of Exchange and Outlook Web Access, and it's all rather ropey. And Microsoft flagrantly do not care about keeping backwards compatibility and this sort of thing.
Jason, can you summarize your general?
Yeah, and we got 2 minutes left.
Can you speak about CD space?
I was just about to bring that point up. No one's mentioned it yet.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know whether we'd fit it on the CD.
Or maybe
Do you have an idea?
I probably should have mentioned that at the start. So,
right now.
Hang on.
Big channeling pity right now.
we have this struggle every cycle where we run the CD like at the limit.
Do you have numbers, or is it just we're not going to fit it on the CD?
Thunderbird is about the 18 meg packed. I don't know what that.
And what's the difference on the CD?
Versus?
How much is it? Don't know yet.
I estimated it more around like 5 or 6 megabytes, but I'm not sure it's at all. Wow.
What is looking for that? How many extensions?
Actually, it's difficult to work out for Evolution because it's split into so many packages.
Sorry, what was the question?
Some of those
No, but
it's thousands. Sorry.
lots, but we'll.
I don't think anyone heard the question. What was the question?
Sorry, how many add-ons? Because I think it's important for our users to want to extend it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
While you were looking that up, I didn't mean to like see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. What packages we've done.
Because if there's like a nice healthy ecosystem of people writing stuff and they're easy to do and
Yeah, there is.
get.
Like there is with Firefox.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important thing to consider that we haven't problems.
It is, but the new model makes it difficult to package. So
Oh yeah, but on that, on
Only
something
minor
like
extensions.
yeah.
If you write a JavaScript Zool-based extension, the add-on website will automatically bump versions and check to see if any of the.
I think James referring to shipping them in.
All right, what I want to do right now is I want to just say, does anyone have any more like major things we have to talk about? Otherwise, we got to start summarizing. We got to start coming to some sort of consensus here. And I want to.
One good thing, so we never really got a feel for a timeline on the ES integration. I mean, being worked on, but any chance it would be ready for use?
Can we get a commitment?
I mean,
do we accept a possibility of a provisional decision?
We've done that.
Have we ever done that?
Yeah.
Those are tough, because, well,
We have to put guidelines up first, I mean.
yeah, you need to be, if you're gonna do a provisional decision that's made sometime late in the cycle, you need to be very, very clear about exactly when that decision is made and exactly what criteria you're gonna use for evaluation, because it just, you know.
I have really big
you don't
concerns
want
about the
that
integration.
last-minute decision.
But at the same time, we have like these guys here and saying like they're willing to put a commitment into doing the work that needs to be done. Of course, things can happen. I think like really it's so close right now that
we are at the decision for the LTS, which has been implications for years. So it is an interesting time, and I'm actually, if we've done it in the past, I'm willing to take it for this one because I think we can, since they're both in Maine at this point too, we don't have to make that decision either, so it makes that a little easier.
It's mainly say, let's say, if you're going to do it, say, at Alpha 2 or Alpha 3, whatever time you choose, we will evaluate these three criteria. Did they finish the integration? Did we finish this? And just to make it clear.
Sure, and so we could probably define that right after this if we do decide to take a provisional.
And conditional on CD space.
Yes.
That's going to be the main one.
But we think we actually, does he think he's got some options there?
Yeah, get rid of LibreOffice.
Cover your.
No.
We're still at the.
We're still fighting to get like
All right.
We're going to do some plugins too, that's going to add even a little bit
We
tiny,
have
like kilobytes.
Yeah, we don't have to take that right now. So CD space could be just the driver there. All right, last call before we start summarizing.
Yeah, I want to ask the design team people, like, did you ever do any user testing on Evolution? We did some on.
We've done some just as the default app.
We haven't actually
We've not
discussed
been,
that.
like, business
Yeah,
specific.
so we did some user testing. I meet together with some technical people in London, like figure out like things that people actually stumbled upon, like, wow, this doesn't work, and then we try to fix a bunch of them. So I think like it's the Hig thing is one thing, but like how useful is it for people would be good to have it. You know.
We haven't done comparative user testing at all, but the value of the Thunderbird brand to the user experience of Ubuntu, there is value in that. It had the sort of lovable part of the Thunderbird matters in this conversation as a default application. We've got a certainly as a product, it works well. People use it. We had one of our participants in the usability sessions. She can't get SMTP to work in Thunderbird, so she can't send mail. She still receives all her mail into Thunderbird because of the way it works and the way she can search, and then goes to her iPhone to reply to emails because of all the added functionality that there is in Thunderbird. That's really compelling as an argument for the user experience of the product. And so, you know, that's really where I am.
Cool.
I had a super quick question. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this as a member of the security team. Encrypted email. I know there's an enigma. If we move to the new model of every 6 weeks, are we going to have guarantees that that's going to work right? Can we ship it? Is there
Is
something
that,
else going on?
that is binary, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, Enigmail is the other big binary plugin we'll likely have problems with.
Okay. So, yeah.
That's a good question.
Is that something
our
that we
QA
could bundle
person-
along with it each, not bundle,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah,
each
yeah.
time?
Our QA person loves Enigmail, and so he definitely lets us know very loudly if we do things that break it.
Yeah. So Enigmail should be updated like at the same time, or is it going to lag a few
We
days?
certainly hope
or-
so, although we don't develop Enigmail. So.
Right.
And I mean, like, in a lot of cases where the add-ons break, it's just a matter of like, actually no API change, but it's just like the version checking number is
Right.
like what broke, and as Blake said, like the add-on side takes care of that.
Right, well, it's a concern because often these will have security updates in them, and so we're pushing them out like mandatory every 6 weeks. Maybe we skip one because it didn't have security updates, but you know, if we break that, and Enigmail is 3 days behind, that's 3 days that people
can't read.
Maybe can't send.
We're gonna have to move on from that. Unfortunately, we can go down that rabbit hole a lot for a lot of various different things. So I know.
I'm just saying it's a maintenance.
No, it's. I understand. So when we look at this in total for a decision like this, we have to consider what we're actually trying to achieve. What are we? So we're trying to get to the mass market. We're trying to get to 200 million users. What's the most compelling experience for them? We have any decision like that is going to be wrought with lots of challenges. CD space, Enigmail, whether or not it integrates or the plugins or anything like that. But we need to make the right decision for the one thing that we're trying to do is trying to attract users and trying to give them the best experience. Everything else is technical and there are details and we can work those out. So thinking about that decision, we should be thinking about those things. The implications, unfortunately for us, we tend to focus on should be secondary to that. So from my perspective, I think 6 months ago this was an easier decision. Now we have a lot more compelling argument to stick, but I still think from a user's perspective, there's a lot of brand cachet with Thunderbird, and the people who we are targeting at 200 million, we still are the consumer-focused distro, although we are becoming more and more OEM, more and more corporate. Mark's even said, I think we're going to have a reason as canonical to always maintain evolution, or at least for the foreseeable future. I think it might be appropriate in this case to take a provisional. Unfortunately, that is not going to satisfy OMG or anybody like that. But I met with these guys this morning. My biggest concern was desktop integration, EDS integration, things like that. But more importantly, how it sits in the desktop, the theme, the feel, things like that. We talked and you guys said we can have some amount of your time, some amount of your time. But I think it's important that we actually see that and feel it, because I think it can convince a lot of people in this room if they can touch it. Because how many people here hated GTK2 evolution, but then tried out GTK3 evolution, and all of a sudden like, all right, switching just like Ryan did. So I think it's important for that tactile response so people can feel it and see it. And I don't know, Allison, when the right appropriate time would be in the cycle, so we need to work that out.
Talk about with them to figure out when it's kind of like what's critical for release in order to make the switch. You don't want to make a switch late if you're going to make it. You don't want to make it the last week, and also for them when they think they can reasonably deliver it. It seems like one of the alphas is kind of generally appropriate, but yeah, you guys have that conversation.
So one more question: are you willing to put in all the work and like haul ass and like really go crazy on it, even if you know that it might not make it?
I am.
Okay, that's why we hired.
So would we switch to Thunderbird and pull back after a certain period? These things haven't fixed, or the other way around?
I think maybe the other way around.
less whiplash that way.
Wouldn't we have a better chance of actually fixing all the issues if we expose to people earlier rather than the other way around?
I mean, Thunderbird already gets a lot of users anyway. I'm not sure in this case whether that would be. I think it'd be a significant amount of work to do the switch and then switch back again.
Especially if one of the provisional things is getting it on the CD.
Yeah.
Because if we try to do that now and it's oversized, you know, we're.
I think there's a really realistic chance that it will come down to that, even if you do all the work and it's awesome.
That's a very unfortunate thing
for
it to rest on.
So with other applications, I might agree there, but I think for this, Thunderbird already gets a lot of exposure with our users, even not being the default.
Right,
I think
I'm not sure if that exposure exposes the thing that you are trying to achieve in order to make it a reliable candidate to be the default client. Because when the current user don't have the problem of integration and other things that you're mentioning, probably they are not using EDS and all that stuff.
But it's easy enough to test on our side. Like it's easy for us.
I don't think it's contingent on bug reports. It's more about are the features there.
Yeah, I think that'll become an obvious thing. Working out the bugs on that would be different, but I think that we can see the desktop integration well. Yeah, I'm not actually worried about that. So I don't think we should switch until we know.
So I specifically mentioned Nickmail, but my question is, we'll make it all shiny, and it'll look, if we go with Thunderbird, and it'll look beautiful, and it'll be integrated in our desktop. And then, and I care about this because I deal with these every day, we upgrade. So did something in upstream's changes break that integration? Did it break the user's experience in some way because of an add-on or an extension?
And this is
so part of the, I mean, we want quality as part of the thing, and Thunderbird is it's a wonderful client. There's a lot of quality there. I'm thinking about the user experience down the line, a year out.
Having a clear story on this can be one of the provisions.
We are not packaging add-ons anymore, right? Into the Firefox add-ons, we are not packaging them anymore.
No, we don't. No, we have very strict requirements on what add-ons we package, and they're either only binary ones that people need to compile, or ones we maintain.
Maybe the way forward is identifying really important extensions and add-ons, and if there's a commitment or maybe research how those have handled upgrades in the past, and if there are like lapses of weeks, months, or something like that.
But it's the same with Firefox. Some extensions lag behind, so you get to Firefox
painful. We get bug reports on it.
Sure.
So again, I want to go back to that. Priority number one, what are we trying to achieve? Details about that. I don't want to get mired too much in the details because we will lose sight of this overarching thing. I don't want to bite shed this decision at all.
2 minutes left on the session.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So kind of feels.
So I think you should find Jason and after the session.
Jason? Oh, of course, Jason. I thought you were talking about someone else. Yes.
So is anyone violently in disagreement about a provisional decision? I mean, it doesn't feel good. It's like a tie. It's like kissing your sister type of thing. It's that whole.
Definitely not like kissing your sister.
It feels responsible from an engineer.
I actually thought that was going to be outcome before I got here.
So Ryan mentioned something before, and we've talked before about this. So we'll have to sit down. We'll have to talk about some of our decision-making criteria, and you've already made that commitment that Mike's been working on this. So sorry we can't be, a little more here, but I think it's going to be interesting, and I really like to sit down and really drive this home that there are certain things that we can do to make a decision easy, and I think that we can talk about that with them.
So our provisional decision doesn't have any requirements yet, does it?
Not yet, and I think we got to work that out.
We can do that out.
Yeah, I think that we can probably define a couple of themes for provisional, but the details about the provisional have to be worked out in the blueprint.
Okay. So we're basically saying there's going to be a set of things we want to meet. If they're met, we are switching to Thunderbird.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Are those items to Met are going to be published somewhere?
Everything should be maintained.
They'll probably want to know.
Yeah.
Please let me know what they are.
People will be able to test that. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure what those commands that have been here.
Those work items on the
They,
board.
it's a very
And
much
you're
will
gonna
be.
see, if you see done, 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 then you're like, great. If you see any kind of hesitation or any kind of failure on those work items, then you'll know where to
This is just for note-taking purposes, and we're already over. Like in less than 2 minutes, can we define what the themed decision-making criteria would be?
Integration.
Okay. Desktop, EDS, launcher. What was that?
Styling and EDS.
Styling and EDS. Okay. What else?
Upgrade reliability.
I'm sorry?
Upgrade reliability.
So a story around release, reliability.
Including plugins.
Including plugins? Are specific plugins that we care about more, or all plugins?
We can't say
Specific,
So
but you have to
Enigmail,
identify.
Lightning. Yeah, Enigmail,
Switching
Lightning.
from Evolution to Thunderbird, helping
So
do
the
migration.
user migration.
Why?
Okay, user migration. So that's 3.
Updates.
CD space.
I forget.
Yeah, and size of the app, right?
So CD
You're gonna get
space.
fucked on that, you know that, right?